Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here today with my close personal friend, Vince Rivas. He is a habitat manager uh, for the San Diego Habitat Conservancy. Did I get
That's
that
right.
right? Okay,
It's a
cool.
mouthful.
Fantastic. And he's here to tell us a little bit about his journey to get here and what he does as a habitat manager. Thanks for being with us here today, Vince.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Awesome. So why don't you just start out? What do you do? What is a habitat manager?
Yeah, so I'm essentially an environmental conservationist. I work for a nonprofit, as Michael mentioned, called the San Diego Habitat Conservancy. And we manage over 25 different habitat preserves throughout San Diego County. It's a bit of a complicated backstory, but in California, permit agencies require that developers, which impact sensitive ecosystems, they are required to mitigate further impacts, and they conserve areas of land for perpetuity, which means all time.
So
And
just to make sure we got that. So like if somebody wants to like go and build something on a plot of land, they have to go and do some studies to like learn how they're going to protect the environment.
that's right. Yeah, let's say
Okay.
a hospital. Let's say a hospital wants to build a parking lot to add to their capacity. They would have to do something called like an environmental impact report, which just basically says, what does the area of land that you're going to disturb have on it, and then the permit, and then they need a permit from a permit agency saying that okay, um, you can develop this area as long as you mitigate for it, meaning restore an area or enhance an area to make up for those disturbances.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
and then in the long run, that goes to a long-term manager, such as the San Diego Habitat Conservancy.
Okay, cool. And then so specifically what do you do on like a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So my job is basically a field biologist and project manager rolled up into one. It requires knowledge in ornithology, herpetology, botany,
Those are the study of
ecology.
birds, reptiles, and plants.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
those of you who
Fancy
don't
way
know.
of saying that. Restoration methodology, and then just conservation practices.
Hmm.
So I spend about 50 to 60% of my time in the field. And I basically get to do field monitoring. So just kind of making sure that the habitat preserves are, staying relatively healthy and free of disturbances from either human or natural disturbances.
Awesome. And then just since this is geared for high schoolers, like, would you mind saying that without the science words in it? Like, what do you like go out and like count trees or like look at
Oh no,
lizards or like?
yeah, it's so we have habitat preserves, like I said, that we
Hmm.
manage for all time, and it's
Hmm.
my job just to go outside and document the species that I see. What
Gotcha.
kind of birds are on site, what kind of plants are on site, what kind of non-native plants are on site,
Rocking.
uh, and then yeah, any issues that I might see, like
Hmm.
signs of trespassing or homeless activity, and then it's my job and my responsibility to follow up with any needed actions. Like,
Hmm.
do we need to schedule a maintenance event to get rid of weeds? Do we need to schedule a crew to come out and pick up any debris that's been dumped, and then follow up with the police department if there's any trespassing or homeless that
Good.
we can't deal with.
Awesome. Awesome. And are you at work right now?
I'm currently at work. Yeah,
Yeah, hey guys, just so you know, this isn't a Zoom background. This is actually where Vince goes to work. You can see the
I'm in the
trees and the
office.
sky. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's in the office. Yeah, so if you're ever looking for a career where you get to be outside all day, so you can see that's currently where he is. That's super awesome.
yeah.
I'm very jealous of you, as I'm trapped inside in my quarantine orders. Um,
I'm stuck outside.
yeah, you're stuck outside. Awesome. And then, so, like, what are some of the things you really like about your job?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, aside from getting to work outside all day, I think the thing that I really love most is that I get to continue to learn every day.
Hmm.
It's like just inundating yourself in the each unique habitat. You learn so much about it. You learn what kind of species are there, what kind of vegetation communities are there, and how they work together. And then, like I said, conservation, it's just an ever developing industry. So I get to attend meetings and work with other land conservancies, and we pretty much collaborate on what's a new practice that we can implement in our preserves to make sure that we're doing making the best approach.
Awesome.
The fancy term called adaptive management.
Adaptive management.
Adaptive management. And I just love learning, so I'm in the right place to be.
That's cool. And then are there some things that are challenging or that you struggle with?
Yeah, every preserve's unique. Whether some of them are tucked away in an isolated area, some are right by a residential area. But I think the biggest concern is always people. It's the biggest challenge, just dealing with how to keep people out of our preserves, because unfortunately, they're closed off to the public, but for right reasons, because there's already so much development in an area where people can go that we need to conserve some for just the wildlife that need it. So we constantly have an influx of trespassers that are tagging rocks or just destroying vegetation, sometimes starting fires. And it's always a challenge figuring out how to properly keep people out.
Word.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I've got like two questions. That's for people who are interested in pursuing careers in wildlife management. What kind of like background or education do you need to get into this kind of field?
Yeah. Honestly, so I got my degree in environmental studies and biology, which was very interdisciplinary. It just encompassed a lot of different sciences and social sciences. And I would say any degree in that relevant field, if you get a degree in biology, environmental management, or systems, or anything of that nature, no pun intended, as long as you show a love for nature, you can do my job. It just takes a willingness to, it's relatively physical. Like I said, I get paid to hike. So there's steep terrain. Sometimes some days are pretty arduous in that sense, but if you have a willingness to learn and you care about the environment, you can do this. I highly suggest, if you're still in high school, go out and volunteer for a local land conservancy or some sort of nonprofit that picks up trash, something in sustainability. And then when you're in college, do an internship, expose yourself to this and figure out what you really love. Is this your calling?
All right. You also answered my second question there. Thank you. One step ahead of the curve. And then we'll just end with, is there anything you would say to young people, just in general? Any advice?
Yeah. No matter what job you take on or what career path you decide to follow, just don't forget that, everyone is connected to nature. Whether you're in the medical field or you want to be a mechanic, always think about the natural environment and what your impacts have on that environment, because, we depend on it just as much as these wildlife do. And, it's important that you don't forget that.
Awesome. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today, Vince.
Of course.
Enjoy your day in the beautiful, great outdoors.
Yep, I get to clock out in about 6 hours. So
cool. Like always, guys. Sorry to cut you off, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. And me or Vince will get back to you. Thank you so much. Hey guys. So the second I ended the interview with Vince, we started talking again, and he started telling us about some of the really cool things he did. So I'm just going to kind of enfold that into a second clip here. Sorry, the transition's not too pretty, but this stuff's pretty cool.
So on some occasions, we get to work on proposals for new upcoming preserves. And today I'm at another potential preserve in Oceanside. I'm basically just inspecting like the existing conditions and making documents on what we would like to see changed before we take on the long-term management responsibilities.
Cool. And then just out of curiosity, what are your long-term management responsibilities?
So as I mentioned earlier, just kind of making sure that the habitat is staying relatively healthy and free of disturbance. Aside from, I don't know if you can tell behind me, but there are a lot of unauthorized trails. So I'm just basically trying to make sure that people aren't actively using the preserve over time. Let me see here. In my background here, there's a lot of large boulders, and many of them are covered in graffiti, which is a telling sign that there's active trespass. So I'd like to make sure that the project proponent gets rid of that, and then there's quite a few of non-native species here on site. You probably can't tell, but there's a large field of artichoke thistle behind me. that's what's considered a highly invasive plant, and it's my job to make sure that that doesn't take over.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
And
there are a number of species that we have to deal with.
gotcha. And so are there also species you're like trying to protect specifically in here?
Yeah, this site in particular has a sensitive species called Brodea filifolia, which is the threadleaf Brodea. It's a highly sensitive species that's endemic to this region of San Diego.
What is that, like a plant of some sort?
Yes.
Like
Okay.
Sorry for all those non-botanists out there.
Yeah, threadleaf Brodea. It's a sensitive plant, really small annual plant, meaning it only comes up once per year. So not only is it hard to detect, but it comes up in small numbers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's okay. So there's not that many of them, and they're delicate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, double whammy. Yeah.
Double whammy, but you know what? Someone has to make sure that the population is safe.
Cool.
So, like I said, over time, it's my job to check up on the population year after year to make sure that it's, what happens if someone comes through and decides to build a bonfire right where the population is located,
Right, and then it's gone forever.
It's gone forever.
Yeah, you can't get it back.
Yeah, you just have to have someone here to keep a presence to make sure that people know that this area is safe. I like to say that I'm almost like a park ranger, kind of enforcing.
I was actually just thinking that. It sounds like you're like a private park ranger for hire.
Yeah. Yeah, just earlier today, maybe 20 minutes ago, I came across a woman and her dog, and she's a local resident. She just asked me what I'm doing out here, and I had to tell her, unfortunately, this area is going to be closed off in the next couple of years, just for the species that live here. So it was a little upsetting to her, but she said, you're just the messenger, and you're doing your job. She understood that the animals that live here need somewhere to be just as much as we do. So.
Well, it's cool you're doing. I mean, that's cool. We need people out there like protecting. There's so much of what humanity's doing is like not protecting the environment.
Yeah, the tragedy of the commons. It's a theory that just says if something is left open to the public, it's going to be diminished faster than it could be replaced. So you need someone to make sure that some places are not being used up.
Yeah, word. Well, thanks for doing that, Vince.
Of course. Yeah, man, I'm happy to.
Okay, cool. I'll stop recording now. Thanks for